So,
Aussie accent.
Aussie accent, indeed it is. I'm trying to tone it down, but if I talk too fast, please let me know. And I'll slow things down. Thank you very much, Jello, for your kind introduction. So I'm not very formal, so let's get that out of the way at the beginning. I am also a nerd. My background is coding, website design, and property portals and websites. So that's what I'll be touching on a lot today. We'll be touching on some data. We'll be touching on a bunch of different things, as well as some trends that we're seeing in the local market here. So I will be covering elements of PropTech. What is PropTech? It's property technology. Some elements within that may refer to Web3 and smart contracts. Some elements within that may refer to virtual twins, which is building modeling, or even the metaverse we might touch on very, very briefly. We'll also be touching on our main international markets and what they mean for property in the Philippines. We'll also be touching on the brand of PropertyAccess. We're pretty new. We've been up and going in the local market for around 18 months for PropertyAccess.ph. And we've also gathered a whole heap of insights and data on that we're happy to share with you. Okay, sounds pretty good. And we've been quite successful at that over our journey. So it says here, we've registered 100 million USD worth of sales in Southeast Asian properties. And a great proportion of those are in the Philippines. These in the Philippines, we've sold over our journey. And we partner with around 70 different companies, and we'll get onto those quite shortly. But what we really pride ourselves on is we represent property developers, obviously, property developers here in the Philippines and in other countries such as Malaysia, Cambodia, Vietnam, and so on. But what we also do is we represent our property investors and clients. And we really try and strike a great balance between looking after our developer clients, but also having the interest of our property investors there as well. Okay. This is an element that PropertyAccess had to grow towards. Now, I've been with PropertyAccess, how long now? I don't even know, maybe 2 years, 2.5 years. I came on board right in the middle of the pandemic. Right, tour groups of Japanese people into the Philippines, maybe a couple of times a month. We would run some webinars and online facilities, but mainly everything was face-to-face. Now, the pandemic changed all of that. It really forced the entire market, not just us, but the entire market to reevaluate what the priorities were. So Hiroki, our CEO, started running 2 or 3 webinars a week. We did online portals, we did webinars, we did online meetings, and we still had our best sales year up to that date during the pandemic. We managed to pivot our business. We managed to grow a YouTube audience, a Facebook audience, and really get in touch with how we could communicate with people online. Part of how we did that is we really revamped all of our web infrastructure. So our websites, the loading speed, the interfacing, the search, everything like that. But this wasn't just happening to PropertyAccess. This was industry-wide. You'll notice a lot of property developers around that time invested in 3D modeling for their showrooms, so people could bring themselves closer to the showroom without actually physically being in there. And that's something we did a lot. I mean, our Japanese team, our sales team, would call property developers here, ask them to get on Zoom quickly on their laptop and show off the physical showroom for customers who couldn't physically be there. It's really about bringing people closer to that actual experience. So I'll be talking about a couple of elements of PropTech I believe will be quite prevalent over the next 5 or 10 years. You may see this little diagram here. We've got something called Web3 up here. Has anyone heard of Web3 before? Yeah? All right. What is it?
That's the next phase of the internet.
The next phase of the internet. It basically is. It's the new technologies on the internet that will start coming out.
Blockchain based.
Yeah. Well, some parts of blockchain, yeah. So Web 2 was dominated by a few tech giants, right? Social media, Facebook, Google, all of these elements. what Web3 is looking at, the ideal of Web3 is decentralization. It's using blockchain, AI, machine learning, virtual reality, augmented reality, and all of these different technologies to really open up a new stage of the web. Now, what does this mean for property? I guess that's the big question. One element that we'll get onto in our next slide is smart contracts, which is something that I'm quite passionate about and I feel will be very prevalent in the markets over the next 5 to 10 years. Even now, it's beginning in a number of countries. You also have the metaverse. Who's heard of the metaverse? Pretty much everyone, right? Okay, so the funny thing is, the metaverse isn't new, the concept of it. There are actually thousands of metaverses already. Does anyone play Minecraft? Anyone? Oh, Chloe over there, excellent. All right, Minecraft is a metaverse. It's an online area where people go to live, to play, potentially to work. Fortnite is a metaverse. World of Warcraft, Decentraland, Second Life, all of these places are metaverses. What Facebook or Meta is attempting to do is create one overarching metaverse that, one metaverse to rule them all, basically. Because if I buy a sword in World of Warcraft, I can't transfer that to Fortnite. It has no currency or value than in its original metaverse. So that's the goal. How realistic that is and how that's going to go, well, many other people who are on bigger paychecks than me are debating that. But that's certainly something. There are already people selling virtual property. Has anyone heard of Decentraland? Virtual property. My thoughts are that virtual property will become an element. Will it be as popular as physical property? No. Because you still need a physical place for your meat body to reside while you're online and while you're going through these areas. But certainly it will become a bit more of a trend. All right, let me wander back over here. The elements I really want to talk about, as I mentioned, is smart contracts. So a smart contract is a digital contract that's built in a digital method using Ethereum, the blockchain language. And what it's there to do is facilitate contracts between a buyer and a seller without a middleman. So it allows, for example, in property, if I'm using a smart contract, it allows me to buy a property without a bank, without a notary, without anyone in the middle, apart from the smart contract itself. Now, what this also allows, which I feel is very exciting, is tokenization or fractionalization of a property. So, for example, if I have an apartment worth $400,000, I can split that into 40 tokens of $10,000 each and allow micro ownership for people who may not have enough money or capital to buy that apartment by themselves, but they can have a share of it and spread their investments along a bunch of different properties. And if the licensing is set up correctly, it means any rental income can then be divested every month or every quarter back along the contract to the end suppliers. What that also means is that there will be an unbreakable copy of that contract on everyone's computer because it's using peer-to-peer technology. So the contract can't be altered. There's complete transparency as to what's happening on that contract, who's bought in, what rental proceeds are coming through, and it's all provided along the blockchain. So I feel that's a very exciting part of technology that will be emerging. There are many industries using smart contracts right now. There are already some companies providing smart contracts for real estate, and I feel this is an area that will grow as we move along, which is exciting because my parents' generation, as it is here, were able to buy property a lot more affordably than a lot of people can now. You have rising prices versus real wages, so this is an opportunity for new people to invest in property because we know that property is one of the most stable and profitable areas for your investment portfolio.